What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Khamzat Chimaev releases new training footage for UFC 319. Khamzat Chimaev has become one of the world's most feared fighters on account of his wrestling and vicious top game. And before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video to help support the channel. But nearing UFC 319, Boars is creating plenty of buzz about his stand-up. If you follow Chimaev's rise up the UFC's middleweight ranks, you know that he has quickly smashed or submitted most of his opposition. It's not like Chimaev has been accused of being a novice on the feet. Far from it, but his striking has not drawn nearly as much praise. Well, due to a recent clip that showcases Chimaev flashing some fast and accurate hands, that's starting to change. Here were some of the reactions the clip drew online, ahead of Chimaev's August 16 scrap with the middleweight champion Dricus du Plessis. Looking like monster, can't wait to see him in action. The mistake is thinking he hasn't striking and he didn't develop it. Same with the cardio, it'll be a bad day at the office for du Plessis everywhere. Striking has improved drastically. Keeping his right leg covered worries me some. Hope he's 100% and doesn't have staph issues. Khamzat looks fast with his hands. The fight with Dricus du Plessis at UFC 319 is going to be interesting. Dricus is done in under 2, bookmark this. He is too OP. How can he strike like this and have the grappling like he does too? DDP is not beating this guy. I can't see any loopholes for DDP to take advantage of, and I know everyone says Khamzat's stamina isn't all that, but the question is, will it go the distance? Of course, pad work is far less challenging than throwing hands with a world-class striker. What do you make of the video? And do you agree with the comments? Breaking. Jon Jones back in testing pool. Jon Jones has said that he's interested in fighting at the UFC's White House card next year, and it looks like the former light heavyweight and heavyweight champion is taking steps to make that happen. Not long ago, Jones confirmed what many predicted he was going to do. He announced that he was retiring, and in doing so, he muzzled all talk about him fighting Tom Aspinall. But after reports of the UFC planning to hold a card on the White House grounds next July, Bones noted via social media he wants to be part of the historic event. Fast forward to today, and it's being reported that Bones has had one test done since announcing that he was retiring. The latest UFC testing update shows a new test for Jon Jones. He had a total of 2 before announcing his retirement, and recently showed interest in a return for the potential White House card. Do you think we'll actually see Jon Jones return to the cage and fight at the White House next summer? And will he finally face Aspinall? Concerns rise for Charles Oliveira accepting UFC fight. After being knocked out by Ilia Topuria, Charles Oliveira is set to return to action on October 11th in Rio de Janeiro against Rafael Fiziev. The bout, which is set to take place just 105 days after Oliveira's knockout, left fight fans concerned. As Mike Bond wrote, "Understand Oliveira wanting to pounce on this since he might not get another opportunity in Brazil during his fighting window. But boy, that turnaround after being put out cold for the first time, by his own admission, is going to be a major point of discourse." One fan wrote, "Looks like UFC setting up Charles to lose. I got fizzed by TKO. Charles shouldn't even be medically cleared to train. If he's fighting in October, then camp starts next week. That's insane. He just got shadow realmed." Another added, "Seems like a really bad idea to have this quick of a turnaround." Plenty of other fans also expressed concern. "This is bad for Charles. My boy might get sparked out again. Way too quick of a turnaround. UFC shouldn't even be allowing him to fight again this soon. Got knocked out bad less than a month and a half ago and is looking to fight in quite literally 2 months. Not a fan of this decision." As one fan wrote, "An Oliveira versus Holloway fight is likely also out of the question for right now. Returning way too early, man, and hopefully we still see Charles Max next year." Some fans think this could be Oliveira's last fight. Calling it, probably gonna retire after this one, only saying that since it's in Brazil. Another shared a picture of gloves left in the center of the octagon, writing, "Sadly, Charles after the fight."
Charles Oliveira fighting in 3 months after that knockout, to me, just does not seem like the best decision. And I always wonder about the team that's around them when people make decisions like that. Because the fighter's always going to fight. That's what he does. But where's the guy, that goes, hey, Diego Lima goes, "Hey, Charles, not quite yet." Or the manager, not quite yet. Especially when Charles has made a boatload of money now. He's done really well in his career. He's established. He's going into the Hall of Fame. He's one of the greats. I just don't want to see something crazy happen again that we saw happen last time. Because remember, guys, when Charles was the champ, he got knocked down a lot. He got hit and hurt a lot. But he was always able to get up and continue to fight. Against Topuria, he was like knocked out before he even hit the ground. That's how bad of a knockout it was. So to see him back in three months, it's concerning.
Paddy Pimblett goes off on Arman Tsarukyan. Paddy Pimblett has made it pretty clear he doesn't care for Ilia Topuria, and the two continue to feud through interviews and social media, but it certainly sounds like the rivals have at least one thing in common: a dislike for Arman Tsarukyan. Ever since Tsarukyan withdrew from the fight against Islam Makhachev for the title, he's taken fire from various observers and fighters. If you follow Topuria, then you know that the new lightweight champion has even claimed that he would refuse to fight Tsarukyan if the UFC asked him to. Tsarukyan, meanwhile, has kind of been left in the lurch, as Dana White has said that the contender will need to fight someone else before getting another title shot. The powerful fighter has been driving hard to secure his next fight, but as this video is being produced, Tsarukyan has not been booked. Well, meanwhile, Pimblett recently talked about how he's hoping to face his rival, Topuria, next. But the baddie also took the opportunity to pile on Tsarukyan again.
All I kept getting asked this weekend was, who are you fighting, when are you fighting Ilia, when are you fighting Ilia? I have no idea. Hopefully it is going to be me versus the Chimaev next, and I think that's what all the Americans want, because every American I bump into keeps saying, when are you going to smash that sausage's head in? I'm hoping that gets sorted, but I understand that I am like rank 9 or something, so other people probably are more deserving, but posh boy definitely isn't. Little rich boy Arman, showing how desperate he is, offering him £1 million to fight him. Spoiled rich baby, trying to pay the way out of things. That's why he quit when he was making weight in a bath like a little Arman's irrelevant, no one cares about him. As I always say, I've got nothing but respect for Justin, but I keep seeing in interviews him saying he doesn't want to fight me. I think the only fighter makes me and Ilia. Seen Dan Hooker talking today as well. I used to like Dan Hooker, now you can eat.
It'll be fascinating to see what direction the UFC goes in here. Strictly from a rankings perspective, Pimblett wouldn't ordinarily be considered for a title shot. He's ranked number 9 currently, while Tsarukyan is number 2. And other contenders like Justin Gaethje and Dan Hooker are also ahead of him, who also have not faced Topuria yet. But what do you think of Paddy's comments here about Tsarukyan? And do you think the UFC will go ahead with Topuria versus Pimblett? Alexandre Pantoja interested in Merab fight. While at one point in time, Alexandre Pantoja had no interest in moving up to 135 for a fight with Merab Dvalishvili, it sounds like the flyweight champion is changing his tune. During a recent interview with Homa Fight this week, Pantoja explained that right now his focus is on Joshua Van and Dvalishvili's focus is on Corey Sandhagen. If both get through their upcoming fights, however, Pantoja thinks that a bout between the two makes sense. With Merab, man, that fight makes sense right now. Why not? It's going to be amazing. The problem is why I need to go to 135. That's true. I've beat everyone, but I keep having challenges in my division. I have a fight to fight. Merab have a fight too. It's about Merab too. While nothing's been made official quite yet, the expectation is that Pantoja and Van will throw down sometime before the end of this year, either on the November card at Madison Square Garden or on the UFC's year-end card in Vegas. Dominick Reyes says he is better than Magomed Ankalaev. Several things have to fall into place before Dominick Reyes and Magomed Ankalaev get booked for battle. But if and when that happens, it sounds like the Devastator is going to be extremely confident heading into the contest. In recent months, Reyes has been busy working back into title contention by taking out the last 3 opponents that he's faced. The former title challenger, who many believe actually beat Jon Jones in 2020, is booked to fight Carlos Ulberg on September 28th. Ankalaev, meanwhile, is set to face Alex Pereira for a second time at UFC 320 on October 4th. The Dagestani light heavyweight ended Poatan's reign in March by recording a UD win over the feared striker. Well, recently, Reyes spoke with Submission Radio, and he was asked who he hopes would win the upcoming rematch between the champion and Pereira. Here is some of what Reyes, who has trained with Poatan in the past, had to say. I'd much rather fight Ankalaev for sure. Honestly, I feel like me and Ankalaev are very similar, but I'm just better. We have a very similar fighting style. I think it's almost the same. But he's a little bit more technical than I am in terms of patience, and I'm more willing to jump in the fire. Don't get me wrong, Ankalaev is a very good fighter. Alex looked lackluster in this last fight, which is rare. He didn't pull the trigger, which is not very common for him. It'll be interesting to see if Ankalaev or his manager respond to the comments. But what do you make of Reyes' statements? Do you think he's a better fighter than the champion? Henry Cejudo says Lerone Murphy and Aaron Pico can beat Alexandre Volkanovski. Not everyone was on board with the UFC's decision to book Lerone Murphy versus Aaron Pico as the co-headliner for UFC 319. But not only does Henry Cejudo believe the fight will determine the next featherweight title shot, he thinks both Murphy and Pico could end the reign of Alexandre Volkanovski. Pico was initially booked to fight Movsar Evloev on July 26, but when Evloev withdrew from the bout, Murphy versus Pico was added to UFC 319. Recently, Cejudo weighed in on the fight during the Pound for Pound podcast, and while doing so, he said this.
The winner of this fight is going to fight Alexandre Volkanovski, and I also feel like the winner of this fight is going to become our next champion, dude. All due respect to Volk.
Whoa.
Yeah, all due respect to him, but dude, these young Kamaru, Lerone Murphy is fighting Aaron Pico. Like, Aaron Pico is in his prime, bro. Power, wrestling. He's been a man-child since he was a kid, already competing at the highest levels while in high school, beating world champions. And then Lerone Murphy, what he's been able to do to a lot of these fighters, man, undefeated, very tricky, brings in a lot of like the wrestling, and he's different. He's like a Merab. Like, you just they're pretty unpredictable. And how is it that he's able to use that wrestling? So I'm excited for this co-main event. I think this co-main event is the most competitive fight, in my opinion, this whole fight card.
That's quite the take from Triple C. Do you agree with him? And who do you see winning the Murphy-Pico fight? UFC updates. Let's take a look at some UFC and fight updates. Recently, the UFC announced that 2025 will not end without Marlon Vera throwing hands, as the bantamweight contender has been booked to fight Ayman Zahabi. The two will throw down at the UFC's October 18th card in Vancouver, British Columbia. Vera will look to get back on track, as the rugged veteran is coming off back-to-back losses to Davison Figueiredo and Sean O'Malley. Zahabi, meanwhile, was awarded a unanimous decision win over the legend Jose Aldo in May, which was his 6th in a row. And following Payton Talbott's decision win over Felipe Lima in June, the bantamweight is gunning for a bout with Adrian Yanez. While speaking to MMAJunkie.com radio recently, Talbott said this: "I think I'm going to get what I wished for. Things are looking good for that. Hopefully November, Madison Square Garden, and things should be good for then. We're definitely working on it." Who would you pick to win a scrap between Yanez and Talbott? And as this video is being produced, Sean Brady's next fight has not been announced, but recently the welterweight reported that an offer has been tabled to an opponent, and they're just waiting for him to sign. Brady is coming off a decisive submission win over former champion Leon Edwards in March, which extended his winning streak to 3. Currently, he's ranked number 2 in the welterweight division. Who are you hoping to see the Philly fighter face next? Roman Dolidze is back in action this weekend, and he'll have his fellow countryman Merab Dvalishvili in his corner. Dolidze, who's booked to fight Anthony Hernandez in a headliner of UFC Vegas 109, recently confirmed to Fighters Only that the bantamweight champion will be in his corner. Merab will be in my corner also this Saturday, but I don't need anybody's success to push me to go forward. And finally, and yes, most people will probably think this is indeed least, it's being reported that 50-year-old Anderson Silva will box 41-year-old Chris Weidman in a trilogy fight. If you're a longtime MMA fan, you know that Weidman defeated Silva twice under the UFC banner way back in 2013. Do you have any interest in watching them box here in 2025? Sean Strickland sends a warning to Dricus du Plessis ahead of UFC 319. Khamzat Chimaev remains the betting line's favorite to hear and new at UFC 319 next weekend. But Sean Strickland continues to cite reasons why Dricus du Plessis could return to South Africa with the middleweight title still around his waist. Since the title fight was announced, Strickland has emphatically argued that DDP could hand Boers his first loss. Strickland has fielded a lot of questions about the fight, as he's faced DDP twice in the cage, and he's also trained with Chimaev. Well, more recently, Strickland was asked yet again to provide his take on the bout. While talking with Red Corner MMA, here was some of what the former champion had to say. "Dricus has better stand-up than Chimaev, but Chimaev has pretty crazy grappling. I've been training with the daggy in my entire life. I know how to get up from these guys. I can withstand the storm. I don't know if he's encountered that level of wrestling to where it might get him a little off guard." But Strickland also proceeded to argue that if DDP makes it out of the opening rounds, Chimaev will fold. He's like a soft man. You take someone like Dricus will that man doesn't give an Chimaev wins off being a bad guy. I'm a bad, tough, scary If you look at everybody who he's fought that pulls his card, alright, let's go. Starts changing. I just think he's some kind of a bully. Nothing wrong with being a bully. It's a fight, be a bully. But it's like, if you're going to be a bully and somebody fights back, you better keep that same energy up. Now, some might argue that Strickland's just saying this since he's had a falling out with Chimaev. But what do you think of Strickland's take here?
It's going to be absolute chaos. I just think, I don't see him coming in with a different game plan. And me neither. I'm going out there to attack. I'm going there to him. I'm not going out there to defend Khamzat's takedowns. I'm not going out there to defend. I'm going there to attack. So I think it's going to look a little bit different. I mean, if you look at the Gilbert Burns fight and the success he had with Khamzat, that's a very, very good. Even with the Usman fight, people don't just go and defend against him. He was forced. Usman was forced to defend, and he did a great job. And then he started with his offensive wrestling and showing Khamzat that he's not the only one who can wrestle in there. I think that was a big key in that fight, which made it a very close fight. And then Gilbert Burns being an absolute animal.
We have a favor to ask. Help us reach 200,000 subscribers on MMA Zone by subscribing and turning on notifications for daily MMA content. Seriously, we rarely miss a day.